Day 597 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again. Another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 955, delete columns to make sorted 2. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. You are given an array of n strings strs all of the same length. We may choose any deletion indices and we delete all the characters in those indices for each string. For example, if we have strs equals an array of strings a, b, c, d, e, f, u, v, w, x, y, z, and indices and deletion indices 0, 2, 3, then the final array after deletions is an array of strings b, e, f, and b, y, z. Suppose we choose a set of deletion indices answer such that after deletions the final array has its elements in lexicographical order, i.e. strs of 0 is less than or equal to strs of 1, which is less than or equal to strs of 2, which is less than or equal to all the way up to strs of n minus 1. Return the minimum possible value of answer.length. Excuse me, y'all. All right, y'all. So now that we've read the question, that seems like it may be a little bit confusing. So let's go ahead and take a look at these examples just to make sure that we are doing this problem correctly. So in example 1, we have strs equals an array of strings ca, bb, ac. The output is 1. Let me go ahead and copy and paste this over here before we get into the explanation, right? So boom, let's just put them in columns. Boom. Okay, let's see. Boom. All right. So it says after deleting the first columns, strs equals an array of strings a, b, and c. So as you can see, this column right here is not sorted lexicographically, right? And since this is the first column, that matters. So what we're going to do is we're just going to delete this column. Boom. After we delete this column, if we were to put everything back how it was, then we would be left with ABC, boom, which is sorted, which is what we want, boom. And in order to do that, it took one deletion. So it says now strs is in lexicographical order, i.e. strs of 0 is less than or equal to strs of 1, which is less than or equal to strs of 2. We required at least one deletion since initially strs was not in lexicographical order, so the answer is 1. So since that took one deletion, that's why the answer is 1. Now, just in case that didn't make sense to y'all, let's take a look at example 2. Example 2 is a little bit more tricky, but this is where the understanding or an understanding of what lexicographical order really is going to come into play. So in this case, we have example 2 equals input equals strs, which is equal to an array of strings x, c, y, b, and za. The output is 0. Explanation says strs is already in lexicographical order, so we do not need to do anything. Note that the row of strs are not necessarily in lexicographical order. So in this case, this array is already in lexicographical order, right? So you might say we bring it over here. So you might have do it like this. If you did it like this, you might say, well, column 1 is sorted, but column 2 is not sorted. However, that doesn't matter, and lexicographical doesn't literally mean alphabetical, right? Every row does not need to be in alphabetical order. Just the first index of each row needs to be in alphabetical order. So as long as this is in alphabetical order, this first index right here, like index 0 here, index 0 here, and index 0 here, as long as that's in alphabetical order, the next and these elements are different, then the letter that comes after doesn't matter, right? As long as this first row is in lexicographical order, then that means the whole string is in lexicographical order, as long as the first letter is different. Now say, let me give you an example. Like say we had let me get rid of this. But say we had like another XA in here or YA, right? So let me come right here, boom. say we had a XA over here, boom. Let's just say this is XA, boom. Now this would matter, right? Because this A becomes before C. So then we would need to say XA, then XC, then we could do YB, then we could do ZA, right? But since these are different letters already and they're already sorted, then it's still in lexicographical order. Like say we had a YA, then the YA would come here. Or say we had a ZZ, then the ZZ would be all the way down here, right? Because then we're going just by this Z, those are ordered. Then we would go to the next column and make sure those are ordered. If these elements were the same, right? If we had two Z's or if we had two Y's, we would make sure that the YA comes before YB. Or if we had two X's, we would make sure the XA comes before XC. But since that's not how the question is, and we all the so we had this, since the first letters are already sorted, we don't really have to worry about the next column, right? Because we're just worried about this second column. We don't need to sort the we're just worried about this first column. We don't need to sort the second column because we don't have two of the same elements from the first column. If that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense to y'all, but that's why this is already sorted, because we're basically sorting them by letters, right? Or the first letter, not necessarily each column. So, and because of that, because they're already sorted in lexicographical order, we don't need to perform any deletions, so the output is 0. Boom. Now let's take a look at example 3. In example 3, our input strs equals an array of strings zyx, wvu, tsr, right? The output is 3. An explanation says we have to delete every column. So let's go ahead and bring this over here so we could go through it. Boom. So we have this, boom, then we have this, boom. Now, as you can see, this first column is not lexicographical order, so we could get rid of it, boom, because it's not in lexicographical order. It's not starting off sorted, boom. Then we come right here. This isn't in lexicographical order, so we could just delete this, boom. And now we're at 2 deletions. Then finally we get here, and this isn't in order, lexicographical order either. So we would have to delete this as well because none of the columns were in lexicographical order. So because of that, that took 3 deletions, and that's why our output is 3. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. Solution is not that difficult at all. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to say let n equal strs.count. Boom. Then we're going to say let m equal, equal. So this is going to get the rows. Now let's get the columns. We're going to say let m equal strs square bracket 0 dot count. Boom. And that's going to get the columns for us. Now we need to convert the strings into an array of characters to avoid repeated big O of n string indexing. So we're going to say let chars equal strs dot map, open up the brackets. We're going to pass in array, open up the parentheses, and pass in $0, just like that. Now, we're going to come underneath this. We're going to declare a variable called sorted, and we're going to set that equal to an array. Open up the parentheses. It's going to be repeating, colon, false, comma, count, colon, n minus 1. Boom, just like that. Then we're going to come underneath that, declare another variable called deletions, and we're going to set that equal to 0. Boom. Now it's time to iterate column by column. So we're going to say for call n 0 dot dot less than m. We're going to open up the brackets, and we're going to declare a variable called should delete. Should delete. We'll set that equal to false just to start. Boom. Now we're going to check if the column breaks the lexicographical order. So we're going to say for row n 0 dot dot less than n minus 1, where exclamation point sorted square bracket row we're going to open up the brackets. Then we're going to say if chars square bracket row, come outside of that, square bracket call, come outside of that, is less than, or excuse me, is greater than chars square bracket row plus 1, come outside of that, square bracket call. Then we're going to open up the brackets and we're going to say should delete equals true, come underneath that, and we're going to break. Boom. Then we'll come down here, and if invalid, we're going to delete the column and move on. So we'll just come right here, and we will say if should delete, then we'll open up the brackets, and we'll say deletions plus equals 1, come underneath that, and say continue. Boom. Otherwise, we're going to update the sorted pairs by coming underneath this, and we'll say for row in 0 dot dot less than n minus 1 where exclamation point sorted square bracket row, come outside of that, open up the brackets, we're going to say if chars square bracket row, come outside of that, square bracket call, come outside of that, is less than chars square bracket row plus 1, come outside of that, square bracket call, come outside of that, open up the brackets, and we're going to say sorted square bracket row equals true. Boom. Sorry, true. Boom. Then all we need to do is come down here and we could say return deletions. Just like that, y'all. So let's run it. It's accepted, so let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it. And look at that, y'all. 0 milliseconds beats 100% of users. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see, y'all. So with that being said, make sure you get one more look at the code. This is the top. This is the bottom. And yeah, y'all, I hope y'all learned something today, and I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.